Put down that hammer before it kills you." The shout cut through the noise like a blade through soft wood. Ada froze. Her hand hovered in the air, the hammer still trembling in her grip. A wave of laughter rippled through the workshop, deep, rough laughter that carried the weight of male pride and mockery. "Look at her belly a beg," one man snickered, wiping sweat from his face. 5 months pregnant, and she wants to be a carpenter. Next thing, she'll say she can lift the roof too. The laughter grew louder. Someone clapped mockingly. Someone else mimed a waddle, imitating the way she moved. Ada's throat tightened, but she said nothing. She only straightened her back, blinked once, and lifted the hammer again. The sound of wood splitting followed, thud, crack, thud, echoing louder than their laughter. The men stopped, just for a moment, because even in their mockery, they couldn't deny what they saw: precision, strength, grace. Her cuts were perfect. Her joinery was clean. The wood obeyed her, but they wouldn't admit it. Not here. Not to her. Not to the woman they believed life had already broken. Before we go on, family, let me say this with my heart. If you love stories of courage, stories of people who rise from dust to destiny, I'd be honored if you subscribed. This channel isn't just about stories, it's about hope. Hope for women who refuse to be defined by pain. So join us. Hit that button, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now let's go back, because this, right here, was the day Ada's life changed forever. When the laughter died down, the air smelled of sawdust and sweat. The old radio in the corner hummed a faint gospel tune. Ada dropped her hammer, rubbed her belly lightly, and whispered, "Just one more job. Just one more good job, and we'll be fine." She said it like a prayer. She said it to the child growing inside her, the only listener she could trust. The workshop was her home, her shelter, her battlefield. She slept on a thin mat behind the stacks of timber, her few clothes folded neatly in a wooden chest she'd built herself. Every morning before dawn, she rose to clean the floor before the men came in. And when they did, they filled the air with talk, football, money, women, everything except kindness. They didn't hate her, not exactly. They just didn't know where to place a woman like her. Pregnant, alone, holding tools meant for men. But Ada wasn't new to being misplaced. She'd been misplaced since the day she was born. The sound of the city leaked through the broken workshop window. The rush of cars, the honk of impatient drivers, the cry of a fruit seller calling out her wares. Outside, the world was moving. Inside, Ada was surviving. That afternoon, she was carving the frame of a small chair when she overheard voices from the shop front. 2 women, elegant, perfumed, their laughter rich and unhurried. "Oh, the Kane Mansion project?" one said. "I heard Leonardo Kane himself hired an elite team. They're restoring his mother's old house. Every detail top class." The other woman sighed dreamily. "Imagine working for someone like that. They say he pays double for craftsmanship. But only top firms, no locals." Ada kept carving, but her hands slowed. Her heart didn't. Leonardo Kane. The name rang like a bell in her mind. Everyone in the city knew him. The billionaire heir whose empire touched everything from steel to design. But Ada wasn't thinking about his money. She was thinking about the mansion, the work, the chance. She didn't know how, but she felt it. This was the opening she had been waiting for. She rose quietly and wiped her dusty hands on her overalls. "Do you know which firm is handling the project?" she asked, pretending to be casual. The women turned, startled to see her. One of them wrinkled her nose slightly at Ada's clothes. I think it's something like Avenue Design and Build. But they only hire professionals, dear." "Not," she paused, her eyes flicking toward Ada's belly. "Not people like you." Ada smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. Then she turned away, her mind already spinning with plans. That night, she stayed awake long after the others had gone home. The workshop was dark except for the small bulb above her bench. On a torn piece of paper, she wrote her application. She didn't lie, not exactly. She just signed it differently, A. Daniels, carpenter. Her full name was Ada Daniels. But A. Daniels sounded stronger, safer, and maybe, just maybe, less feminine. She printed her best photos, the door she carved for a church, the crib she built for a friend who lost her baby, the chair that never squeaked. She sealed them in a brown envelope and whispered, "Let them see what these hands can do." When she walked to the courier office the next morning, the streets smelled of rain and roasted corn. She handed the package over and watched the clerk stamp it. "To Avenue Design and Build," he said. "That's the big one, eh?" Ada nodded, her heart thudding in her chest. "Yes," she said quietly. "That's the one." Back in the workshop, the men were joking as usual. "Ah, our carpenter queen is back. You go chop money soon." One laughed. Ada smiled faintly and picked up her tools. She didn't tell them. Not yet. Because dreams, she knew, were fragile things. You protect them in silence until they bloom. She worked all day, the sound of hammering blending with the beating of her heart. The baby kicked once, strong, insistent. Ada laughed softly. "You feel it too, don't you?" she whispered. "Something is coming." 2 days later, a message popped up on her old phone. The screen was cracked, but she could read enough to make her knees weak. "Dear A. Daniels, we are pleased to inform you that you have been selected for the Kane Mansion Restoration Project. Report on-site Monday morning." For a long moment, Ada just stared at the words. Then she sank onto the stool, her hands trembling. She laughed. Then she cried. Then she laughed again. She didn't know that someone in a glass office had looked at her name, A. Daniels, and assumed it belonged to a man. She didn't know that the site manager would soon mock her again, louder than ever. All she knew was that, for the first time in years, something had opened for her. A door. And it wasn't just any door. It was the door that would lead her straight into the life of a billionaire who didn't believe in mistakes, until she became his greatest one. "Who let her in here?" The shout came from across the marble floor, sharp, angry, and echoing through the grand hallway like a whip. Every head turned. Every eye followed. And there, standing by the double doors, covered in dust and sweat, was Ada. Her toolbox dangled from her calloused hand. Her belly showed, round and undeniable beneath her overalls. For a moment, silence. Then laughter, low, cruel, disbelieving. The site manager, a tall man in an expensive shirt rolled up at the sleeves, stepped forward. "What kind of joke is this? Who are you supposed to be?" Ada steadied her voice. "A. Daniels, sir. Carpenter." The laughter grew louder. Someone clapped mockingly. Another whispered, "A. Daniels? I thought we hired a man." Ada didn't flinch. She simply placed her toolbox on the ground and said quietly, "You did hire a carpenter. And that's exactly who I am." The Kane Mansion was a world away from her wooden workshop. Sunlight poured through tall stained glass windows. Every corner smelled of polished stone and old money. The air hummed with the sound of drills and voices echoing up the staircases. And yet, Ada felt none of it belonged to her. The site manager crossed his arms. "Listen, lady. I don't know who messed up the hiring list, but you can't stay here. This isn't a charity workshop. This is the Kane Project." Ada met his gaze, steady. "Then let me work. If I can't do the job, you can send me home." He snorted. You can't even climb a ladder in that condition." "I won't need a ladder," she said softly. "Just wood, nails, and silence." Something in her tone, calm, sure, unshaken, made him pause. But before he could speak again, a new voice echoed from the upper balcony. "Let her stay." Everyone turned. At the top of the staircase stood a man in a black suit with his sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. His gaze was sharp but curious. His presence changed the air in the room, firm, quiet authority that needed no announcement. Leonardo Kane. He walked down the stairs slowly, each step measured. "You said your name is A. Daniels?" "Yes, sir." He studied her. Not the way men looked at women, but the way an architect studies a foundation. Assessing, calculating, intrigued. "You're 5 months pregnant." Ada nodded. "Yes." "And you still want to work here?" "Yes." A faint smile tugged at his lips. "Most people would have left already." "I'm not most people." Leonardo's smile widened slightly, a mixture of amusement and respect. He turned to the site manager. "Give her the East Wing door project. Let's see what she can do." The manager protested. "Sir, that's a premium." Leonardo cut him off. "Then she'll either ruin it or surprise us. Either way, we'll learn something." And with that, he walked away. The murmurs followed Ada as she set up her tools. "Can you believe this? She'll last a day. She's probably here to get attention." She ignored them all. The East Wing was quiet, half-renovated, filled with dust and light filtering through tall windows. The scent of old wood and new beginnings hung in the air. Ada ran her fingers along the carved door frame, faded, chipped, but once magnificent. She whispered, "Let's bring you back to life." She worked for hours, shaping, carving, sanding. The sound of her tools blended with the heartbeat of the mansion. And when her hands trembled, when the baby shifted inside her, she whispered again, "We're doing this together, little one." By evening, her palms were raw, but the door began to take shape, smooth, strong, alive. Leonardo passed by that night as the crew was leaving. He noticed a faint light glowing from the East Wing and followed it. Inside, he found Ada still working. Her face glistened with sweat, her eyes fixed on the wood like a woman possessed by purpose. For a moment, he just watched. He saw her adjust the chisel with precision. He saw the fine grain of the wood begin to reveal its pattern. There was no hesitation in her hands. No fear. Just quiet certainty. He leaned against the doorway. "Do you always work this late?" Ada startled, then straightened. "Only when I need to prove something." "To who?" She smiled faintly. "To myself." Leonardo stepped closer, studying the carvings. "This is remarkable," he murmured. "You're not just repairing the door, you're redesigning it." "It needed a new story," Ada said softly. "The old one was broken." He looked at her then, not as a mistake on his staff list, but as something else entirely. A story he hadn't expected to read. "Do you always talk like that?" he asked. "Like what?" "Like every sentence is a prayer." She wiped the dust from her hands. "Maybe it is." Leonardo didn't reply. He simply nodded, his expression unreadable, and walked away. But that night, as he sat in his office reviewing blueprints, his mind wandered, not to the mansion, but to the woman who worked like she was carving her way out of grief. The next morning, Ada arrived before sunrise. The mansion was quiet, wrapped in soft mist. She touched the finished section of the door and smiled. Then she heard footsteps. Leonardo again, this time without a suit, just a simple shirt and trousers. He carried 2 cups of coffee. "I figured you'd be here early," he said, handing her one. She hesitated. "I don't usually take favors." "It's not a favor," he said. "It's caffeine. We both need it." She took the cup, their fingers brushing briefly. For a heartbeat, everything slowed, the hum of the air, the warmth of his touch, the scent of wood and rain. Then she stepped back, flustered. "Thank you, sir." He smiled. "Leonardo." "Sir?" "My name. When we're here alone, call me Leonardo." Ada looked down, unsure. "All right, Leonardo." He chuckled softly. "That's better. Now tell me, what made you choose this craft?" Ada's eyes softened. "Because wood listens," she said. "It breaks, it bends, but it never stops becoming something new. People could learn from that." He nodded slowly. "You sound like my mother." There was a pause, a heaviness in his voice when he said mother. Ada didn't ask. She just kept sanding, her silence saying what words couldn't. By the end of the week, the east wing door stood completed, smooth, rich, and carved with delicate roses that seemed almost alive. When the workers saw it, they didn't laugh. They didn't even speak. Even the site manager stared, speechless. Leonardo traced the carving with his fingertips. "If strength had a face," he said quietly, "it would look like this door." Ada smiled, tired but proud. "Then I guess I did my job." "You did more than that," he said softly. But as they stood there, a distant rumble of thunder rolled through the city. Dark clouds gathered over the skyline. The wind pushed through the open hallways, scattering papers, slamming windows. A storm was coming, and Ada didn't know. The storm outside would soon meet the storm inside her life. If you're still with me, thank you, family. Don't forget to subscribe if you believe every broken thing deserves a second story. Get down. The voice tore through the chaos, rough, panicked, desperate. The next moment, the sky itself seemed to split open. Wood cracked. Metal screamed. Rain fell like sheets of glass. Ada's hammer rolled away across the marble floor as the scaffolding above the east wing shuddered, then collapsed in a deafening crash. Dust filled the air. Screams echoed through the mansion. She didn't think. She just ran. A worker was trapped beneath a beam, blood pooling beneath his arm. Ada fell to her knees, splinters cutting into her skin. She tried to lift the beam. It didn't move. She tried again, muscles trembling, pain tearing through her body. "Help!" she shouted. "Someone help me!" But the storm drowned her voice. The others had scattered, some calling for cover, others too afraid to come near the collapsing structure. "Please," the man gasped, "my leg." Ada braced her back against the wall, used her shoulder for leverage, and pushed with everything she had. Her teeth clenched. Her belly tightened. Sweat poured down her face, mixing with the dust. The beam shifted slightly, just enough. The man crawled free. Ada collapsed beside him, gasping for air. Then silence. Only the rain tapping on the broken roof. Her vision blurred. Her body went weak. And just before her eyes closed, she heard a familiar voice shouting her name. "Ada! Ada, stay with me!" When Ada opened her eyes, everything was white. The smell of antiseptic filled the room. Machines beeped softly beside her. She tried to move, but her body ached. Her hand instinctively went to her belly. The baby kicked. Relief flooded her chest. "Thank God," she whispered. Then she heard a voice, quiet, familiar. "You scared me." Leonardo sat by her bedside, his shirt soaked and wrinkled, his eyes shadowed from sleeplessness. "You carried me?" she asked weakly. He nodded. "You fainted before the ambulance came. I couldn't just leave you there." Ada looked away, embarrassed. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." He leaned forward. "Trouble? Ada, you saved someone's life. You lifted a beam twice your weight while pregnant. Do you even realize what you did?" "I just did what I had to do." Leonardo's voice softened. "You could have died." She smiled faintly. "So could he." He exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. "You're impossible." "I've been called worse," she said, and for the first time he laughed, quietly, tiredly, but genuinely. Later that afternoon, as the rain eased outside, Leonardo stepped out into the hallway to take a call. Ada could hear the tension in his voice, even through the closed door. "Yes, I'm aware of the situation," he said sharply. "No, she's not fired." "What? Public image?" There was a pause. Then his tone turned cold. "Listen to me, if strength had a face, it would be hers. You tell the board that." He hung up. Ada blinked, stunned. He'd defended her. Publicly. Against his own people. When he returned to the room, she looked at him differently. Not as a billionaire. Not as a boss. But as a man who saw her, really saw her. "Why did you do that?" she asked quietly. "Because the world doesn't need another coward afraid to stand by what's right." His gaze met hers, steady and warm. "And because you remind me of someone I lost." "Your mother," Ada guessed. Leonardo nodded. She used to say, "If you want to rebuild something broken, start with your hands." You said something like that once. Ada smiled softly. Maybe she's still speaking through your walls. The next day, news spread like wildfire. Pregnant carpenter works for billionaire heir. Public outrage at Kane Construction. The media feasted on it. Some called it a scandal. Others a miracle. But none of them knew the truth. The woman they mocked had risked her life to save another. Leonardo's PR team begged him to issue a statement of apology. Instead, he held a press conference. Standing before flashing cameras, he spoke calmly. "Yes, Ada Daniels is working on the mansion restoration. Yes, she's pregnant. And no, she's not a liability. She's the reason the project still stands. She's the reason one of my men is alive today. If strength had a face, it would be hers." The room went silent. That clip would later go viral. But at that moment, Ada was sitting on her hospital bed, watching from a small TV, tears streaming down her cheeks. No one had ever spoken for her before. She pressed her hand to her chest and whispered, "Why him, God? Why send someone like that into my story?" When she was discharged, the mansion was still being repaired from the storm. Half the crew was gone, and the structure smelled of wet cement and burnt wires. But Leonardo insisted she come back, not to work, but to oversee the carpentry repairs from a safer area. He had new workers under her supervision. "You're the lead now," he said. "You'll guide them." Ada stared at him wide-eyed. "But I'm qualified," he interrupted. "That's all that matters." She swallowed hard. "Why are you doing this?" He smiled faintly. "Because you remind me what purpose feels like." Weeks passed. The mansion began to heal, walls repainted, doors restored, light returning to the rooms. And somewhere in that process, so did Ada. Some nights, Leonardo would join her as she reviewed designs, their conversations stretching into midnight. They talked about everything: architecture, fear, childhood, loneliness. She told him how she'd built her first bed from leftover wood in an orphanage workshop. He told her how his mother had taught him compassion before cancer took her away. Two people from different worlds, yet both learning that pain doesn't care about class. One night, as thunder rumbled again in the distance, Leonardo turned to her and said softly, "Do you know why I kept you here, Ada?" She looked at him, uncertain. "Because of the door?" He shook his head. "Because of what I saw when it fell." "When what fell?" "The scaffolding. Everyone ran, Ada. Everyone except you. You didn't think, you didn't scream. You moved. You chose courage over fear. That's something I've forgotten how to do." For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of rain outside. Then Ada whispered, "Courage isn't loud, Leonardo. Sometimes, it's just a woman saying, 'I'll try again,' when life says she shouldn't." Leonardo's eyes softened. "Then you've been brave your whole life." Ada smiled faintly. "I just never had anyone notice before." As the weeks turned into months, something unspoken began to bloom, slow, quiet, inevitable. The mansion wasn't just being rebuilt. So were they. "Breathe, Ada. Please breathe." The voice echoed through the narrow hospital corridor, terrified, breaking, human. Leonardo's heart raced faster than the beeping monitors as he ran beside the stretcher. Nurses shouted instructions, wheels clattered, and the world blurred into a tunnel of white light and panic. Ada's eyes were half open, her lips pale. "The baby," she whispered. "Don't talk," Leonardo said, his voice trembling. "You're safe now. I'm here." But even as he said it, he didn't know if that was true, because the woman who had saved others now needed saving herself. 2 days earlier, the mansion smelled of varnish and rain. The last pieces of the restoration were nearly complete. Ada sat by the east wing door, the one she'd built with her own hands, polishing the carved roses that had become the symbol of her journey. Leonardo walked in quietly, holding a small envelope. "You're glowing," he said softly. She smiled. "That's the varnish." He chuckled. "No, it's something else." Ada rolled her eyes. "Flattery doesn't work on carpenters, sir." He tilted his head. "Leonardo." "Leonardo," she corrected, then frowned. "What's that in your hand?" He handed her the envelope. "Open it." Inside were documents, an official certificate for her new workshop's renovation, fully funded under her name. Her breath caught. You rebuilt my workshop?" "I didn't rebuild it," he said. "You will. I just gave it walls. You'll give it soul." Ada's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you doing all this for me?" Leonardo hesitated. Then he said quietly, "Because when I met you, my life was a blueprint, perfect lines, no heart. You gave it depth. You made it real." Ada stared at him, her throat tight. She wanted to speak, but the words dissolved somewhere between gratitude and fear. She'd built her world around survival, not affection. And here was a man offering her something she'd forgotten existed, care without conditions. That evening, as the crew left, Leonardo stayed behind to help her finish the final touches in the main hall. The chandeliers shimmered above them, scattering golden light across the marble floor. Ada ran her fingers along the polished banister, her reflection merging with his in the glossy surface. "This place feels alive again," she said softly. "So do I," he replied. Their eyes met, just for a moment, but long enough for silence to speak. Ada looked away first. "You should get some rest. You have a company to run." He smiled faintly. "And you have a miracle to protect." Her hand went to her belly instinctively. "It's not easy," she said, "carrying life while carrying the world's judgment." Leonardo stepped closer. "Then let me help you carry it." The room went still. Ada's breath caught. "Why would you want to?" "Because," he said, his voice low, steady, "you've already carried more than anyone I've ever met. And I can't watch you do it alone anymore." Something in her heart, the part that had built walls of wood and fear, began to soften. She whispered, "Leonardo." He reached for her hand but stopped halfway, letting her decide. She didn't pull away. For the first time, she let herself feel the warmth of someone who didn't see her as broken. Days turned into weeks. The mansion stood finished, strong, radiant, a living monument to resilience. The night before the official unveiling, Leonardo invited her to the balcony overlooking the gardens. The city lights flickered in the distance, mirroring the stars above. He handed her a cup of tea, smiling. "To new beginnings." Ada raised hers. "To survival." They laughed quietly. Then Leonardo said, "Ada, I've dedicated one room of the mansion to you." She blinked. "What? Why?" He pointed toward the east wing. "It's called the carpenter's room. It'll stay just as you left it, the tools, the carvings, the unfinished wood. People will walk in there and know who rebuilt this house." Ada was silent for a long moment. Then tears filled her eyes. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he said simply. "Some stories deserve to be carved into the walls they saved." Ada looked at him through blurred eyes. "You make everything sound so easy." Leonardo shook his head. "It's not easy." "It's right." That night, she couldn't sleep. The baby kicked restlessly, as if sensing her heart's confusion. She walked through the quiet mansion, touching the walls, the furniture, the door that had changed her life. Every creak of the floorboard felt like a heartbeat, the mansion's and her own. When she reached the east wing, she found Leonardo sitting alone by the fire. "You're awake," he said softly. "I couldn't sleep," she replied. He smiled faintly. "Me neither." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the crackle of the fire. Then Leonardo turned to her. "Ada, when this project started, I thought I was fixing a house. But now I realize it was fixing me." She looked at him, her heart pounding. "Leonardo," he interrupted, voice barely above a whisper. "You built my mother's house. Now, I want to build a life with you." The words hung in the air, fragile, powerful, impossible. Ada's eyes widened. Don't say that. You don't know what you're asking for. I do, he said. I'm asking for a chance to love you. Not because I pity you, but because I see you. All of you. Ada shook her head, tears spilling over. I can't. I don't even know where my child's father is. My life is chaos. He reached for her hand gently. Then let's build order from chaos. Together. She stared at him, at the sincerity in his eyes, the warmth in his voice, and something inside her finally broke open. But before she could answer, a sudden pain tore through her stomach. Her breath caught. Her knees buckled. Leonardo, she gasped. The baby. He caught her just in time as she collapsed against him. The next hours were a blur. Sirens, flashing lights, the storm returning outside as if nature itself was holding its breath. Now here in the hospital, Leonardo sat by her side again, his hand over hers. The doctor entered, smiling gently. She's stable, but the baby wants to come early. We're preparing for delivery now. Leonardo exhaled, relief flooding him. When Ada opened her eyes again, she whispered, Stay please. I'm not going anywhere, he said. The rain stopped as the night deepened. Outside the delivery room, Leonardo waited, pacing, praying, trembling. Every cry, every silence from behind that door tore through him. Then, after what felt like forever, he heard it, a soft, powerful cry. The door opened. The nurse smiled. It's a boy. Leonardo felt his knees go weak. And Ada? She's fine. Exhausted, but fine. He walked into the room quietly. Ada lay pale but peaceful, a tiny baby swaddled in her arms. When she saw him, she smiled weakly. You waited. Always, he said. He looked down at the baby, so small yet so full of life, and whispered, Welcome home, little one. Ada's voice trembled. Home? Leonardo nodded. Yes. The mansion's waiting. The one you built with your hands. The one that changed us both. The morning sun spilled gently through the hospital blinds, painting Ada's face in gold. Her baby, tiny, perfect, breathing softly, rested in her arms. She hadn't slept, not because of exhaustion, but because she couldn't stop watching him. Every sigh, every stretch, every miracle-filled breath. For the first time in years, she felt peace. Not the quiet kind that hides pain, but the kind that replaces it. When the door opened, Leonardo stepped in, still in yesterday's clothes, eyes tired but glowing. You stayed all night, she said softly. He smiled. You think I could leave after you built an entire human being? She laughed weakly. Built? That's your architect talking. He shrugged. Then let's just say, you designed perfection. Ada looked down at the baby again, eyes glistening. His name is Daniel, she whispered. After my father, the only man who ever believed I could hold a hammer. Leonardo nodded. Daniel Kane Daniels, he said softly. That name has strength. She froze, startled. Kane Daniels? He met her gaze, his tone gentle. He doesn't have to carry my name, Ada, but he will always carry my protection. A week later, Ada returned home. Only, it wasn't the same small, dusty workshop she'd left. The smell of new wood and paint greeted her as she walked in. The walls gleamed. The old broken roof had been replaced. And at the center of the room stood a brand new workbench, engraved with the words, Built from Faith. Ada ran her fingers across the carving, trembling. Leonardo, she whispered. He appeared behind her, quiet as always, holding a small set of baby cribs. I hope I didn't change too much. Ada turned, eyes full of tears. You did. You changed everything. He smiled faintly. Then I guess we're even. She laughed softly, shaking her head. You really don't stop, do you? When something's worth rebuilding, he said, you don't stop until it stands again. Weeks turned into months. Ada's workshop came alive again, this time, under her own company name, Daniel's Designs. The orders poured in. Her story, the pregnant carpenter who rebuilt a billionaire's mansion, had spread far and wide. Newspapers called her the Miracle Maker. Clients came from every part of the city, wanting furniture made by the woman who defied the storm. But fame never changed her. She still worked with the same rough apron, the same careful hands, the same prayer whispered before every project. Let this would tell someone's story. And Leonardo, he was always near. Not hovering. Just there. Sometimes bringing supplies. Sometimes bringing coffee. Sometimes bringing silence, the comfortable kind that didn't need words. One afternoon, as Daniel slept in a cradle she had carved herself, Ada was working on a table when Leonardo entered with a folder. I have a proposal, he said. She laughed. You always have proposals. This one's different, he said. You're about to become a partner at my design firm. Ada's hands stilled. Hey, what? He placed the folder on the table. A 50-50 partnership. You lead the handcrafted furniture division. We combine your creativity with our resources. She stared at him, speechless. Leonardo, that's too much. He smiled gently. No, Ada. It's just enough. You've spent your life building for others. It's time the world builds something with you. Ada looked at him for a long moment. Then she whispered, You're dangerous. He raised an eyebrow. Dangerous? Yes, she said, smiling. Because kindness like yours makes people believe again. The mansion's grand reopening came 3 months later. Guests filled the marble halls, designers, philanthropists, press. Everywhere the whispers, she's the carpenter. She's the one he defended. Ada stood quietly by the door she had rebuilt, the same one that started it all. Leonardo approached, dressed in a tailored navy suit, his eyes soft when they met hers. You look terrified, he teased. I build furniture, not walk red carpets, she muttered. He leaned closer. Then just walk beside me. When the master of ceremonies called them to the podium, Ada's heart pounded. She wasn't used to speeches, but when she saw Leonardo nodding from the side, her courage returned. She stepped forward. This mansion, she began, was built by many hands. Some rich, some poor. Some skilled, some learning. But every nail, every plank, carries one truth. We all build something in life. Some build houses. Some build hope. I was lucky to build both. The hall erupted in applause. Leonardo's eyes never left her. When it was his turn to speak, he said just one line that silenced the crowd. She built my mother's house, and taught me that faith isn't found in temples, but in people who refuse to stop believing. After the ceremony, the guests lingered around the ballroom, laughter echoing beneath the chandeliers. Ada slipped away to the balcony, craving air. The night breeze was soft, carrying the distant sound of music. Leonardo followed, stepping beside her. You did well, he said. So did you, she replied. He smiled. Do you know what I thought about during your speech? What? The first day I saw you, standing in this mansion, covered in dust, defying everyone. You looked like you didn't belong. But now I realize this house was waiting for you. Ada looked away, the city lights reflecting in her tears. You talk like everything has meaning. He turned toward her. That's because it does. There was silence, the kind that hums before something beautiful or terrifying. Leonardo took a slow breath. Ada, I meant what I said that night. I don't care about your past. I don't care about rules, names, or what society says. I just care about you. Ada's heart thudded. Leonardo. He knelt down, not in a grand, showy gesture, but with quiet conviction. From his pocket, he pulled a small wooden ring box. The box itself was carved, by hand, with her signature rose pattern. You built my mother's house, he said softly. Now let me build a life with you. The world seemed to go silent. The music inside faded. Even the wind held its breath. Ada's lips trembled. Leonardo, I'm just a carpenter. He smiled. And I'm just a man who finally found what's worth building. Her tears spilled freely. In that moment, every insult, every scar, every storm she'd endured seemed to fade, leaving only this truth. She was seen, not as broken, but as whole. She whispered, yes. Leonardo exhaled, closing his eyes for a moment before rising. He pulled her into an embrace, steady, warm, real. Inside, the music swelled again. But out on that balcony, it was just the sound of two people who had rebuilt each other from the ruins. Months later, the mansion echoed with laughter. Daniel took his first steps across the same marble floor where his mother once fell. Ada's new design firm thrived. Leonardo's company became known not just for buildings, but for the hearts behind them. And every night, before locking up, Ada would whisper to the carved wooden door, "We did it." Because they had. Together, they'd built a palace from pain, a family from faith, and a love that refused to obey the rules of class or chance. Do you hear that, Daniel? Ada's voice was soft, warm, and full of wonder. The little boy giggled as the sound of hammers echoed faintly in the distance. Not from the mansion this time, but from a brand new site. They were building again. This time, the mansion wasn't theirs to fix. It was a school, her school, for young women who wanted to learn carpentry, design, and construction. On the wide signboard at the entrance, in bold letters, it read, "The House of Hope, founded by Ada Daniels." She smiled, brushing sawdust off her apron as she watched the young women learning how to measure and carve wood. Their laughter filled the air. 5 years had passed since the storm, since the mansion, since Leonardo knelt on that balcony and changed her life. And though time had softened the memories, it hadn't dulled the gratitude. Leonardo's car pulled up on the dusty path leading to the school. He stepped out, his shirt sleeves rolled, his tie loose as usual. Ada turned, smiling. "You're late again." He grinned. "You started early again." They met halfway, not with words, but with a quiet hug that said more than time ever could. Leonardo looked around, eyes full of admiration. "You really did it." Ada nodded proudly. "We did it." He chuckled. "You'll never stop building, will you?" She tilted her head. "You built skyscrapers. I build second chances." Leonardo's gaze softened. "And somehow your buildings stand taller." Inside the workshop, young women moved with focus, sanding, hammering, measuring. The air smelled of wood, oil, and ambition. Ada walked between them, correcting hand positions, adjusting angles, encouraging them with a smile. "Precision isn't about strength," she told one girl gently. "It's about patience. The wood listens to you when you listen to it first." Her words carried quiet authority, the kind that comes from scars, not books. Leonardo watched her from the doorway, a proud smile on his face. She wasn't just teaching carpentry anymore. She was teaching courage. That night, after the students had left, Ada sat under the mango tree outside the school, Daniel asleep on her lap. The sky stretched above her, filled with stars that shimmered like 1,000 reminders that pain can become purpose. Leonardo joined her, 2 mugs of tea in hand. "For the architect of miracles," he said playfully. Ada laughed softly. "You still call me that?" "Always," he said, sitting beside her. For a while, they just listened to the night. The sound of distant frogs. The soft hum of crickets. The heartbeat of peace. Then Ada spoke quietly. "Do you ever think about how it all started?" "Every day," he admitted. "That night in the rain, I didn't know I was meeting the person who'd change everything." Ada smiled faintly. "Funny. I thought I was meeting the man who'd fire me before lunch." They laughed quietly together. Then Leonardo's tone shifted. "You know, Ada, I've built towers, bridges, mansions. But this school, this is the only thing that feels truly alive." She looked at him with gentle eyes. "That's because it was built from pain, not profit. And pain makes strong foundations." He nodded slowly. "You've turned your story into light. I just hope Daniel sees what kind of woman his mother is." Ada looked down at her son, brushing his hair gently. "He doesn't need to hear my story. He's living it." Weeks later, the House of Hope was formally inaugurated. News crews arrived, cameras flashing. Once again, the woman who'd once been mocked stood at a podium, but this time not alone. Leonardo stood beside her, holding her hand as she spoke. "I used to think wood was my only language," Ada said, her voice trembling with emotion. "But then I realized stories are wood too. You can carve them, shape them, and make them strong enough to carry someone else. This school is for every woman who has ever been told she can't. I say she can." The crowd erupted into applause. Daniel clapped from the front row, shouting, "That's my mummy." Laughter rippled through the audience. Leonardo smiled down at his son. "Yes, that's your mummy. The bravest one of all." That evening, after the ceremony, they walked through the mansion, now a heritage site and design center. The walls gleamed, filled with photos of Ada's journey, her first projects, and the women she had trained. As they reached the east wing, Ada stopped. The wooden door, her door, still stood there, flawless as the day she finished it. Only now a small brass plaque sat beside it. "The carpenter who built hope." Ada ran her fingers across the roses she carved years ago. "They're still here," she whispered. Leonardo nodded. "And they'll outlive us both." He turned to her, eyes soft. "You know, when I look at this door, I don't just see craftsmanship. I see every choice you made, to stay, to fight, to build. You taught me that creation isn't about wood or metal. It's about faith." Ada smiled, tears glistening. "And you taught me that love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's steady, like a heartbeat in the walls." Later that night, they stood on the same balcony where he once proposed. The city lights shimmered below, the same way they did years ago, but everything had changed. Ada leaned on the railing, watching the sky. "Do you ever get scared?" Leonardo tilted his head. "Of what?" "Of losing it. The peace. The success. The family we built." He smiled gently. "All the time. But then I remember, we built this from nothing. If it ever falls, we'll build again." Ada's heart swelled. "That's what I love about you." He laughed. "What? You don't promise perfection. You promise effort." Leonardo reached for her hand. "And I'll keep that promise. Always." She squeezed his fingers. Then so will I. The wind brushed against them, carrying the scent of rain and roses. Below them, the mansion stood like a living memory, solid, beautiful, alive. And beside it, the House of Hope glowed softly under the moonlight, a beacon for those still learning to rebuild. Months later, a journalist asked Ada what her proudest achievement was. She smiled. Not the mansion, not the business. My proudest moment was the day I picked up the hammer again, the day I refused to stay broken. Years would pass. Daniel would grow tall and curious, always asking his mother about the house where I was born. And Ada would smile and tell him, "It wasn't the house that made you special, my love. It was the love that built it." If you've stayed with Ada till this moment, family, thank you. You are part of the House of Hope. Please subscribe, share, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Because somewhere out there, another dreamer is still holding a broken hammer, wondering if it's worth trying again. Let's remind them, it always is. The mansion still stands. The roses still bloom. And Ada's name, once whispered in mockery, is now spoken with reverence. Because she proved one timeless truth. You can build palaces from pain. You can carve beauty from brokenness. And you can turn the wood the world threw away into a door that opens to destiny.